Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The area I'm getting into now is an area I have not gotten into before. So some of you may be surprised that I'm wading into the question of DNA studies vis-a-vis the Beta Israel or Ethiopian Jews. I'm getting involved because the world is truly a globalized village. Even when you want to be uninvolved, somehow you are dragged in. We are all witnesses to how the Igbos got involved in the question of using DNA to trace the Israelite ancestry. Some of us decided to explore the new method just for confirmatory purposes, to confirm a fact we have always known. We wanted to see if DNA will also say what Omenana has said, that the Igbos are lineal descendants of the biblical Israelites. So we bought the kits that everybody uses. Nobody uses anything else. We bought them, had our DNA analyzed, the results came out. We were originally Levantine. And somebody like me was not surprised. I was born in Urukwe. That's where I was born. Abraham was born in Uru Chaldea. And Uru in Akkadian and Ugaritic, which were the languages that Abraham presumably spoke, and Uru in the Igbo language mean the same thing. There are idioms that Abraham used that Igbos use till today, and nobody else uses them in this world. So I only got involved in analyzing my DNA to see if this new science will support what my culture, religion, and history indicated, that I am a descendant of the Levites, the Israelites. I did that. A lot of Igbos did that. California-based lawyer, Emeka Madu Ewesi, he's been in America for over 20 years now. He had his own analyzed. It shows also Middle Eastern, like mine showed. Nzerabi Charleston Okafor, a mathematics teacher in Cleveland, Ohio, had his own analyzed. Same thing. Every Igbo that had their results analyzed, it showed clearly that we were Levantine before we became West African. But then, how did Igbos become involved in the imbroglio? A toxic group with ulterior motives went and analyzed people who were clearly not Igbos. And even more disastrously, they dared to feed out the result that led people to think wrongly that the DNA of the ancient Israelites had been found. If you say you are looking for groups that descended from the ancient Israelites, the only way to know those groups is to look at their culture and see if their DNA matches the DNA of people that are living in the area the Israelites are believed to have lived. Remember, the Israelites were people that existed thousands of years ago. Nobody in the world today has seen their genes, because nobody has been able to see a human body or a skeleton or anything and say this was the body of an Israelite. People can only speculate, because if you find skeletons that date 2,000 years ago in the land of Israel today, you could have seen skeletons of Philistines, of Hittites. Remember, Uriah the Hittite lived in Jerusalem. So, but look at how the Igbos were dragged in. They were dragged in purely for racism. Somebody was not comfortable that these Africans came from Israel. So somebody made up a false result and the press bought it. Many people don't want Africans to be linked to the story of the Bible. It went viral. Even academics cite that today. Even academics who don't want to work say that Igbo DNA has been analyzed. Meanwhile, results of people like me are in public domain. So, a few days ago, I saw this conversation. I wasn't invited and I didn't want to go, even though the two fellows, their names feature in it, are friends of mine. One is like a brother to me. I'll read out what I'm going to talk about now. And I said, even though numerous Igbo DNA results were freely available online, and they all showed that Igbo people were in the Middle East, yet an obnoxious group still received, quote, positive media attention when it invented the falsehood that could be misconstrued to mean that the Igbo DNA and the DNA of the Israelites didn't match. For one, nobody has found the DNA of the ancient Israelites, so the only proof that someone descended from them that can be valid is evidence that the person has always lived by the ancient Israelite culture, which interestingly, the Bible's description for this culture is the Igbo description for religion and culture, omenana. And that the person's genes match genes found in the Middle East, which was where the ancient Israelites lived. Interestingly, my DNA result, the DNA of every Igbo analyzed, shows that Igbos once lived that place that the ancient Israelites lived. Yet this group claimed that it had analyzed and found that Igbo genes were purely sub-Saharan. My genes show that my genes match people in Israel, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, these places in sub-Saharan Africa. Well, those like the friend that was mentioned in the write-up that attracted me, those like Jeremiah Danzig, who wanted to move forward, who don't want to dwell in darkness, in ignorance, studied the Igbo culture. Remember, I said that the only real irrefutable proof is you have to show that you live by Israelite culture. If you are a descendant of the Israelites, studied Igbo culture, Jeremiah Danzig studied it and came away with the impression, with the conviction, that even up to 2024, in spite of everything the Igbo people have gone through, criminal colonialism, they were criminally colonized, their culture, what they regard as their culture, menana, makes you think about the time of Samuel the prophet. Move to the Igbo hinterland today, the way people live their daily lives reminds you of the way Boaz, Ruth, who migrated and joined the Israelites through marriage, how they lived. I have aunties who came into my family through the Levirate marriage. And interestingly, the Hebrew word, the Hebrew idiom for marriage is the Igbo idiom for marriage, imaogodo, to cover with the garment. Yeah, the Igbo people suffered the character assassination and blackmail I detailed over DNA. Why? The answer is found in the response to the question. I responded to something, and I'll tell you what I responded to. The other friend that features in this story is one Matthew Finkelstein. He wrote, for a long time it was thought that Ethiopian Jews were descended from converts. He wrote that for a long time it was thought that Ethiopian Jews were descended from converts. In other words, I saw this recently again. Another person wrote that the only Jews who were not Levantine were the Ethiopian Jews. But Finkelstein went on to say that he learned from one of Jeremiah Danzig's video that this was never true. In other words, Jeremiah Danzig opined, positioned that Ethiopian Jews were also Levantine like other Jews. So I went on to say the answer to why people made up stories that denied the proven The clear Israelite ancestry of the Igbos is exactly the same reason why people believed that the Ethiopian Jews alone, among all the groups identifying themselves as Jews, identified as Jews, that the Ethiopian Jews alone did not descend from the ancient Israelites. The same factors motivated, or some of the same factors motivated the people that rose against the Igbos and the people that convinced themselves that only the Ethiopian Jews couldn't have been Levantine in other ways, that they were converts. Because some people are scared, threatened, whenever they see African groups that can really make a difference. They are scared. The Ethiopians come with some heritage that people who are not confident in themselves will be uncomfortable with. Ethiopia is an ancient civilization mentioned in the Bible. So for people to say that they were Jews or related to the Israelites from there would make some people uncomfortable. So people had to see if they could be denied their heritage one way or the other. Let me say something. I have not analyzed the DNA of the Ethiopian Jews, neither have I analyzed the DNA of any other group outside the Igbos. But harking back to the arguments I made earlier, nobody has seen the DNA of any ancient Israelite. No DNA in the world today has been compared to the DNA of an ancient Israelite. And I'm saying with absolute authority here that even if you find the body of an Israelite that lived 2,000 years ago, what you still find therein you still need a lot of evidence from culture to prove that that Israelite that existed 2,000 years ago is connected to somebody that is living in the world today. Because the Israelites that lived 2,000 years ago were a mixed people too. One of the most important and famous Israelites was David. Look at his background. There was Israelite, there was Moabite. He was a great-grandson of Ruth, that noble woman that stood by the Israelites. She was Moabite. So, you see, when DNA came out and people tried to use it to support history, people like me, I welcomed it because I said if people do the right thing, it could support. But when people began to think that standing alone, it could tell whom somebody was 2,000 years ago, I know that people had derailed. To know who somebody was 2,000 years ago, you have to look at how that person has lived for thousands of years. That is culture, religion. And for God's sake, when people tell you that people have lost their culture, those people are not really. The people making these assertions don't really know what to do. If I look at an European today, I will tell you how he lived before he became a Christian. I came from Nigeria, which contains over 300 societies. When I look at the way most of the societies are living through Christianity and Islam, I will tell you whom they were thousands of years ago. Because the Christianity and the Islam have not totally obliterated the traditions that existed before them. And I am not the only person who can work on subjects like this. When the British came to Nigeria, it didn't take them much effort to realize that they, the British, the Yoruba, the Fulani, the Hausa, the Bini, and other groups in Nigeria were closer culturally than they were to the Igbos. They discovered that the Igbos talk out like a sore thumb in Nigeria. And these things are easy to see. All the other societies were monarchies. Some had aspired to be empires. But Igbos, in spite of their huge population,